Hey there, Cape Cod. It's high noon on Wednesday. Time for us to see what's going on around the Cape. We have an exciting weekend coming up. Happy Father's Day to all you dads. And in fact, what's happening this weekend is the Hyannis. It's now called the Greater Hyannis Chamber of Commerce Father's Day Car Show. And it's a very exciting time because it's the 25th anniversary. In order to celebrate that, we decided to reach back in time a little bit and talk with Hank Farnham, who is one of the co-founders of the original show. Welcome, Hank. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Gwen, and thank you for having me to share this opportunity with the folks out there. And this is our 25th anniversary. We started the show back in 1994. Actually, the concept for doing the show came about thanks to Bill Stevens, who's a television guy and an author of all pretty much Motorhead stuff, automotive related.
Is he on the Cape or?
He lives on the Cape.
Mm-hmm.
Used to live in West Barnstable. I think he's in Cotuit now. But he does all the color commentary for the Mecum auto auctions, talking about the different cars. Very knowledgeable. Has written several books about famous race car drivers, and a great guy. And he had been to a show out in Michigan, a very, very big show that lasts for several days, and they have over 1,000 cars that attend it, and people line the streets in this town there, and it created a week, almost a week-long event, and that's what Bill thought would be good for us here on Cape Cod, Main Street and Hyannis in particular. And so he got a hold of Frank Catania, who was then the president of the Hyannis Chamber. And I knew Frank. I was one of the founders of the chamber in 1983, so I know all those guys.
From the hospitality group.
Yeah.
We know him from Daniel Webster and his other restaurants. So.
Correct. Yep. That family. He's retired now and enjoying golf and cars. But so anyway, we got together with town officials and ran the idea behind them. They thought it was a great idea, and they thought it'd be wonderful for the downtown and wonderful for residents and guests. And so we picked Father's Day because we thought cars and dads and granddads and all would be kind of a great link. And it was. And it was a big hit right from the very beginning. We had, I think, 125 cars in the first show, which we only had Main Street closed off from Barnstable Road down to High School Road. So it was pretty full. And so it was either next year or the year after we decided we had to go all the way down Main Street.
And now, if I read this correctly, we have a story with details and schedules coming out in this week's Cape Week on Friday. So if you need details that you've missed in the conversation here, you can find them. You can find them there. And our reporter Haley had, I should say her last name too. Our reporter Haley Robertson had spoken with folks at the chamber and yourself, and I think she said that there were 350 registration spots open for cars.
Yeah, that's the maximum we can get on Main
And they
Street.
filled very quickly.
It filled right up. It's well, it's partly because it's our 25th anniversary, and thank you for sharing that with us, that we have 9 bands coming, so there will be concerts going on through much of the day on Saturday and Sunday through the whole show.
25 hours, right?
That's 25 hours of music for the 25th anniversary.
Ah, that's nice. And I saw one of the singers that I know is Isla Brown. I don't know her personally, but I know I've seen her sing before. She is a season 5 American Idol finalist and also daughter of Senator Scott Brown. So that's a familiar face, and some other wonderful music as well. So
Yes.
did you have, I think you brought something.
I do.
You are so prepared.
Well, we started off with the Schuler Grant Band on Sunday at 9 a.m. Then we have Anna and the Moderns from 10:30 a.m. till noon, and then George Gritzback Band, they're a local group, from noon on till 1:30, and then the closeout will be Soggy Po Boys. And on Saturday, we start off Saturday at 2 p.m. with the Melick Moon Group. And at 3, it's the Super Soul Shine. At 4:30, it's Brian Sansas Band. And then at 6, it's the Crabgrass Bluegrass Band. If you like bluegrass, they're really good. And then, as you said, Gwen, Ayla Brown will close out the Saturday night show at 7:30. So it's really a great group.
I'm still trying to imagine a musician who can get up for a 9 a.m. Gig. That just doesn't go together in my mind.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So now I was thinking that what we should do is move on to what for many people is the exciting part of the show. Now, maybe you could tell us a little bit about one or all of these cars, and whether we might see one of these cars life size as opposed to model size.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'll start. This is a 1965 Ford Mustang Shelby GT 350, and that's one of my favorite cars. And there's a fellow who lives in Dennis who owns a car identical to that, and he's had it in our show several times. And the value of those Shelby 65 GT 350s is now somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000. So it's not something you want to take out and have.
What is that, because of its rarity?
Its rarity and the aura of the connection with Carroll Shelby, who passed away a few years ago. And he developed the Cobra and the Ford GTs that won Le Mans and the manufacturer's trophy back in the 60s. So it was the only American manufacturing firm that did that.
This was a classic car when it was built. It was
Absolutely.
built as a classic car.
It was built as a muscle car to compete in the muscle car arena with the GTOs and the 442s and the Hemi Cudas and all those.
I wasn't sure if just a regular car from 30 or 40 years ago that's been lovingly cared for and garaged, grows into classic status, or if it needs to be a car that was born a classic.
Actually, it's more the latter, but a limited production vehicle, it can be very popular and very appreciative in terms of value. My wife had a pretty rare car. It was a Chevrolet SSR pickup truck. They only made them for 3 years, and they only made 24,000 of them. And it was built on a Corvette chassis. And you push a button and the top would go down.
Huh.
Yeah, and so it was a pretty cool car, but for some reason it's never been popular, and they have depreciated rather than appreciated.
Oh.
And so, but they can go both ways. But usually it's because the condition and the rarity in terms of number made is pretty much what drives it.
And these aren't all American cars, are they?
In our show?
Yeah.
Oh no, we have sports cars. We have MGs, Triumphs. I saw a couple of Ferraris, Maserati. Yeah, so there's a number of really cool foreign sports cars that are going to be there.
Great. I want to remind viewers that if you have a classic car and you have a question about that classic car, we're willing to try and field it, or Hank's willing to try and field it. And if we don't get the answer today, we'll try and get it for you. So feel free to write in, type your question on the Facebook Live, and we'll see what we can find out for you. So tell me a little about, over the years, if there were cars in particular that drew a lot of interest and that that you yourself were surprised to see.
Well, over the years, the desirability or the want factor has changed considerably by generations. And back when I bought my first car in 1956, it was a 1930 Model A Coupe, and I paid $65 for it. And I restored that car, and then I found another one of a similar vintage, and I restored that. And then I got interested in hot rods and that thing, and shortly thereafter, the desirability of those older cars became less, and different cars became more popular. For example, as I said, the muscle car era in the 60s, those cars were very popular, but most of us couldn't afford to buy them then. And so now that we've retired, they've become even more popular, and so
Mhm.
they've gone up a lot in value. I was down at the Mecum auction in Kissimmee in Florida, and 2 years ago when there was a 67 CUDA Barracuda convertible that sold, it was a 4-speed Hemi powered. It sold for $2 million.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a moment to take a comment from John Miller. He says, "Great that you do this year after year, super events." So that's a little bit of fan mail for you.
Oh, great.
So, and I should say that you did this for the first years, and then after it was established and going, you took a step back, and you still work with the show, but not in the same capacity, right?
Right. I was the chairman for the first 10 years, and I felt that it was time after 10 years that new blood should come in. And so Chris Keogh took over, and he did it for the last, I think, 11 years. But it's an easy show to do because we had it structured right from the get-go with volunteers who love to come and work every year.
Mhm.
So the continuity of the same people and knowing what to do is very helpful. The challenge comes in parking because we have 350 cars that we need to get on the street in a real
Right.
hurry. And so we have turnover in that capacity with the volunteers because they have to be at the show at 6 a.m. to start parking the cars. And so the older they get, the less desirable 6 a.m. sounds.
Hank, I can tell you right now, I will never volunteer to park cars. When I got my license, the instructor said, if I give you your license, we just keep driving because you're good at driving, but you can't park. And it has pretty much been true. And I can't imagine how intimidating, if you're not familiar with these cars, it is to park them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
when you were talking about your first car, was it like the yellow one? Don't we still have the yellow one?
Yep.
I can't see it.
this car is a 1932 coupe, and this particular car was the star in the movie American Graffiti,
Ah,
if you remember that.
barely.
I think as I remember, the guy's name was Milner. But anyway, my car was very similar, but it was all stock. It wasn't. This has got a big V8 engine in it and all modernized running gear and all. But yeah, it was like that.
So
Yeah.
it,
And then I had that was the 1930, and then I had a 32 coupe, and now I have a 1934 coupe. It's a 5-window coupe
mhm.
like that with a rumble seat in it.
Wow. And do you do all the work, the body work, the engine work, when you restore a car? Are you working on the
No,
whole thing?
I used to do that in the beginning. They were much easier to work on, and parts were very plentiful, and everything was cheap, and you could. But now with more modern powertrains, the engines, transmissions, and all that, they're a little more sophisticated. And plus, I'm an old guy now, and I find that if I take something apart, it doesn't always get put back together in a timely manner. So
Well, even without giving myself the old label, I never was good at getting things put back together, so I was hesitant about what I took apart. I think changing the oil might have been the most I ever did. And now, of
Oh,
course,
that's
you got
good.
to find a place to legally dispose of the used oil.
Mhm.
So it's really not worth it. But anyhow, so do you drive your classic cars?
I do. I have 4. I have a 1929 Model A Roadster pickup would be classified as a rat rod. That's got a 61 Corvette motor and an old 2-speed Power Glide transmission. I haven't had that out of the garage in 2 years. I have that 34 Ford Coupe, which is a beautiful car. I bought that from Brian Stanley, who had built it, and he did a great job with the car. And I have a 2008 Corvette convertible that is, when I bought it, it got stuck in my garage and it hasn't come out since. And so it's got less than 2,000 miles.
What do you
on it.
mean stuck?
Well, I got a lot of stuff buried around it.
Oh,
And then I have my new pickup truck, which I just got, and that's a Ford Raptor, which is an awesome vehicle. So,
mhm.
yeah, but I drive them.
Are there places besides the Hyannis Car Show where people can gather? I sometimes even see people at the Kmart parking lot on Friday nights, but where they can gather to chat, share their interest in cars and show off their car. I mean, that's what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, there are quite a few clubs around, and the Cape Cod Classics, which is a very active club, and they help us a lot do the Father's Day show. They meet on Saturday evenings, every Saturday evening at the Patriot Plaza on Route 134.
Dennis, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they have a big show, The Blast from the Past, in August. There's also a little show at the Root Beer Place on 28 in Harwich, and then Falmouth has a number of shows, and they do it. So the shows a lot.
Is there like a central website for these shows, or is it by the group?
Yeah, that's a good question. There is, but you have to go online, and I forgot now. It's an off-Cape group that lists all of the events that are going on.
We'll get that for you and put it in the comment section if anyone's interested in seeing all of the events involving classic cars. Is that the best term for all these wonderful cars?
Yeah.
So now what's the deal on touching the cars? Can you?
Most of the vehicles have little signs like, unless you're nude, please don't touch, because you'll have little kids that if you have a car that has a running board set up on it, they don't want the kids climbing up on the running board and they're leaning in through the window to look and stuff. And some people do that. They don't know better, and belt buckles are not friendly to paint.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And so
better to ask first, just like with a dog, better to ask the owner if, because I know some owners are big on letting kids sit in them, but probably with some cautions.
Yeah. And I've done that because a lot of times parents will want to get a picture of their kid in the car, and I'll say, sure, especially my rat rod. I say, you can climb on and do whatever you want because they have a magic marker that touches up and scrape,
Okay. I got to try and get one. We need to talk. I just have a regular old Subaru, but it's getting scraped up here and there. So this is obviously a big show for you because it's the 25th anniversary, but also because these events are being added. There's a road race, and I think you have the times on that. So we're going to put our glasses on and take them off until we can make the words appear.
Okay, so the road race is on Friday evening at 5:45 p.m. and it's called the Sun Run, and it's at the Village Green, and it is a certified 2-mile course, and it benefits Camp Sunshine, and that's a camp that helps terminally ill youngsters.
That's here on Pleasant Bay, is it?
I'm not sure where, but it's on the Cape.
I might be wrong, but I know it's on the Cape. We've been there.
And that road race will be led by 4 vintage cars. And then Saturday, we've extended the Saturday event. And so the 25 hours of music begins on the Village Green at noon, and that runs till, I think, 9. Then there will be the car owners, the participants in the Father's Day show, those who signed up will have a reception dinner. They get a dinner and a couple of drinks on the town green, and that's from 5 to 7. And then there will be a small car show from Barnstable Road to Pearl Street. We close Main Street.
Like a parade?
No, it's
a smaller car show.
Yeah. And then at 7, when that ends, the cars will be cruising Main Street. And so you'll see a lot of cool cars.
So Saturday night at 7.
5 to 7, yep.
If you want to see these in motion, which I was curious about the kinds of speeds that you experience when you're driving these cars. They seem to have very big engines,
yes.
But I don't know if they have a top speed that's lower than today's cars, or
cars like this, the hot rod. This is a 427 67 Corvette. Those guys will easily probably hit 140 and
wow. So those are performance cars.
And they'll get there quickly.
Yep.
Yeah.
In 60 seconds, as they say.
Yeah.
So this guy feels left out, Hank. You need to tell us what it is.
Okay, that's a 1948 Ford convertible, and I got my driver's license on a car very similar to that, except it was a coupe. My brother's Ford coupe, and so I have a little soft spot for that. I wish I had that car. As a matter of fact, it was cool.
What did you build these models, or do they come like
these
this?
These are die cast. These are the 1/18, the larger scale, and they're very popular.
They're very solid.
Oh yeah.
When I was holding it up.
the hood opens, the trunk opens, the doors open, the steering wheel turns, the wheels in the front, and all that stuff.
I'll let you do that, but can we try opening? Whoa, sorry guys, opening the trunk.
Okay, there's the hood, and inside is a little Ford.
Let's hold it towards the camera.
Flathead V8 engine, which was hugely popular, and you can't see because it's too tiny, but and then in the back is the spare tire.
You can see in movies, people all piled into these cars, you know.
So these are really for old timers to enjoy looking at, but occasionally I've had, when my kids were young, I'd had to call the wrecker to take something off to the dump, but yeah. But
well,
they
these
really,
look like they're in good shape. Yeah.
The detail of these cars is amazing to me, and you know, they run from, I don't know, $20 to $30, and then they have some real expensive ones. The Japanese ones are about $130.
That's actually more reasonable than I was expecting, because the detail is unbelievable. There's the dash is detailed and the steering wheel. But now with the real cars, I have found I've attended 3 or 4 times the car show, and I find that the people who are there with the cars, they really want to talk. You can, if you want an education about cars, that's where you can get it.
Well, that's a great point. And our show is so popular because it's one of the biggest participant shows, spectator shows in the Northeast. We get anywhere from 50 to 60,000 people at our Father's Day show.
This is amazing.
And for that reason, the car owners love it, because they always have people stopping and taking pictures or chatting with them, asking questions. And so it's it's like a holistic event, really.
Why don't, and that's maybe not that many, but you've had a good turnout from the beginning. I think you brought a picture with you, a photograph of the first car show, and the one you took from the fire.
Okay, so these are 2 different years, but these are from the ladder truck where the flag flies, and I climbed up there and never will do it again, but it's pretty scary. You can see the crowd, and it's like that all day long. These are 2 different years, actually, but.
And I think in addition to the cars, if I remember correctly, there's a lot of food to buy, and even some other stands that are selling things. So
Absolutely.
it's a really festive day for Dad and for anyone, because I know that I've met women who are into classic cars and who drive them either on the road or sometimes even on the track, depending on the car.
Yep.
So we can't forget, it might be Dad and Mom's Day, and it's free to go, and you just buy things as you want to, right?
That's correct. Yep. And I think it's typically the biggest day of the year for most of the merchants and the restaurants. Not too long ago, they used to run out of stuff quite frequently because the crowds got bigger and bigger. And occasionally we'll have a special person come and like we had Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney, who was the national drag race champion in AA fuel dragsters, which you can't get any better than that. And she was a pistol boy.
Did she speak?
She did at the Saturday night event, yes. Yeah. And she had some terrible accidents, and so she's kind of hobbled now. But, when you're going 200 miles an hour and your car flips over, it's not always good.
Now, this may seem a stupid question, but I'm assuming that most of these classic cars are 5-speed transmissions, manuals.
No, actually, that's a good question. They're mixed, and automatic transmissions have become much more popular now, because if you were a young kid, you got your license, it would most likely be on an automatic. So most of the younger people don't know how to drive a standard shift. That's
why I couldn't drive the race car of that lady I was telling you about. I didn't know, but I have since learned, and I like it being able to do both. Now, it says here that you are going to have cars dating back to 1921. So I'm assuming that the older ones, about what year did they start putting the automatics in?
I think it was 1949. I think Oldsmobile Hydromatic may have been the first automatic that I can remember anyway, 1949.
So I'm trying to picture, because I haven't been in a while, what it will look like when you sort of start at, where would you start? Kind of at the paper, right? if we walk out the door of the paper and here on Main Street and look down, we're just going to see a corridor of cars on both sides. And it's just amazing to me how that transforms the space. So it will be a lot of fun. And I assume you're going to be there. And if you have questions when you're out there, or you need directions, or I'm sure where is the nearest bathroom is a popular one. Do you have porta potties out of the street?
Oh yeah, we have porta potties,
Mhm.
and there are plenty of restaurant facilities available.
Great.
Yeah.
But if you see someone wearing this pit crew, then you can stop them for information. And why don't we close? Maybe you could tell me that story about the pit crew. There was another shirt that your family got you.
Oh, well, some of the gals who worked in the Hyannis Chamber office thought they'd be cute, and they got me a replacement pit crew shirt, and it said Pit Bull on it.
Well, you certainly were when you needed to be to get the car show started, and it must feel good to see it still thriving after all these years.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I love it. And so many people that I know love it. And they say, we can't wait for the show to start. But we have great volunteers, and it makes it so much easier. People who know what to do and do it well. And the police and the DPW and the fire guys, they're awesome too.
You have a substation right down there on Main Street.
Yeah.
But well, we're looking forward to it. And what I wish you, I thank you for coming, and I wish you the weather we have today on Wednesday, because it's just about perfect out there. Don't you guys think? So don't forget to come by Hyannis this weekend for music and food, and to see some spectacular cars, learn a little bit more about them. Thanks for joining us today.